Hey everyone, welcome to another video review. This is the Magic Square MS-B12 and B13 Pillage and Contain, the last two of their Stunticons. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, but we'll put them off to the side for now, because we're going to go ahead and talk about the box, which, yep, it's a Magic Square box. You can see, they got the good old purple and black grid pattern. You got a couple renders of the figures on there. You got ages 16 plus. You got, of course, the logo, the Magic Square. The little alien kid from that one episode. Another name, Magic Square, says Magic Square and Pillage and Contain. You got tech spec on this side for Pillage. You got one from this side for Contain. On the bottom, you got some warnings. On the back, you got that picture, that G1-esque picture right there of in the shadows of the Stunticons kind of running around in the desert. And of course, in the box, you have the instructions, which skip a couple steps, unfortunately. These are probably the worst instructions of all the Stunticons so far. They have, well, I don't say skip so much as kind of gloss over some kind of important details, for sure. And you also got their tech cards and little baggies, Pillage to Contain. Nice little renders on the front there, and on the back you got more tech spec stuff. There you go. So, Pillage, aka Drag Strip, and Contain, aka Dead End. The thing about these two, zoom in a little bit more. The thing about these two is it's been widely reported that these guys are a bit of a QC nightmare. Yeah. Not the two of them so much as one of them specifically. Pillage has two major problems that are out there. One's pretty much universal, one of them's kind of luck of the draw. Contain's got a ton of problems, including mine. Mine seems to be hit with every single potential problem that's been out there for him, unfortunately. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and look at that stuff. Like you see, yellow, and kind of a weird goldish brownish color, very dark, almost like honey mustard color. You got some red stripes. You got the 6 wheels. You got the silver engine, fairly large engine actually. You got the spoiler with more red stripes. You got silver on the rims. You got very flat at the bottom. You got little exhaust pipes even. Although just in yellow, no pick down anything. You got a little cockpit, although there's nothing in there. And it rolls pretty well, which is good. Rolls pretty well. Yeah, it's a solid little car. It's kind of easy to knock the rear tires out of alignment. It's like that. That's one of the problems, speaking of. One of the potential problems with Pillage here is that some people, apparently the rear tires are mispinned. So what happens is they kind of wind up sitting like this. Well, more or less the tire always sits like that. And mine are fine. Thankfully, mine are fine on this one. The tires do sit straight, but a lot of people's are misfired, so they can only sit like that, or they can't fold up completely because they're just misfired. The other major problem is this engine block. The core of the engine block has to flip over to transform, and it seems like something was incorrectly done at the factory, because when the last step in the instructions tell you to flip the engine block over and tab it in between these two halves right here, and that's more or less the final step. The problem is something's not right, because the tabs and slots do not quite work together. The slots are either too small or misaligned or something, and it's to the point where someone noticed that one of theirs were not symmetrical, so it's to the point of wondering if possibly these were manufactured incorrectly, and they had to manually cut the slots in on the engine sides, because it's a pain to get this all tabbed in for when you transform to car mode. A little bit of shaving on the slots on the sides of the engine here. A little bit of shaving on the inside of the slots can help a lot. And just kind of transforming a couple of times seems to loosen up a bit enough that it actually goes through. But I would actually recommend kind of getting the legs out split a little bit, having the engine block pieces split out a little bit, like when you transform it. Yeah, when you transform it, like having the engine block pieces kind of somewhat outward. See if I can demonstrate that. If you see like one of them or one or both of them kind of somewhat outward, so when you bring the engine down, when you bring this down, you see it's kind of like this. You have a little outward so that you have a little bit of room. But yeah, just eventually we'll just push it in and then just kind of squeeze these pieces together. And that should more or less work after, again, a little bit of shaving. Seems like that seems to be a universal problem. Another thing on the mind, the spoiler doesn't. You see that the spoiler doesn't like to stay tabbed together very well, so it has a tendency to do that sort of thing. But the spoiler is adjustable if you need that for whatever reason. Now, Contain. Oh, Contain. I had such high hopes for this guy, but unfortunately, he seems to be, unfortunately have some issues. Okay, you can see those blotches on windshield? That's Sharpie. Because on mine, the windshield, the paint started coming off. Every other window's fine, but the windshield paint just straight up started coming off, unfortunately. I don't know what the heck happened. I'm not even sure what I did. I'm just noticed everyone's, well, oh, there's more paint off. It happened 3 times. Like, I think it's just literally just touching it. But I tried to seal it with some acrylic floor polish. That kind of helped a bit. It's not getting as bad, but yeah, there's just what's eventually I think I'm going to have to do is strip all the window paint off and replace it so I can don't have to worry about color matching and just repaint it all, because you can really see that just blotches of Sharpie, which it's better than just blotches of red, but still doesn't look great. And also you can probably notice there's a gap here, and that's because mine didn't like to tab together fully. What happened, it was always sitting like this. There was always a bit of an angle. And I suspect, if you look here at this right here, these parts, between the tabs and the edges of the windshield right here, the tabs are just a little too wide and the edge of the windshield kind of jut inward a little too much. So what happens is when you try to tab it all together, it just pops the roof back. Because I was noticing it was always doing that, except when I push the front of the roof down a little bit, then it would tab in a little better, more securely. But it would, then you have the roof kind of sitting at a weird angle and whatnot. So I did shave it down. The problem is I shaved it down personally a little too much, but now it actually sits a little better. It's still unfortunately a bit of a gap, but it does sit flat. Because I was noticing the windshield piece was kind of tilting up a bit. So that is a thing to watch out for. I'm not sure how universal that one is, but not everyone seems to be having that problem. But myself and a couple other people have had it. This does sit better, unfortunately, because now there's not enough plastic for it all to grip, and mine now has a bit of a gap. It's not ideal, but that is partially my fault. But it is also the knowing that that was from an attempt to fix it, and I just went a little too far with the shaving of the plastic. I might have to re-thicken these things. A couple other things too. You can see, though, he is very much a red Porsche 928 with little silver headlights, although somewhat not quite accurate. He's a little too long. He's got a little spoiler. He's got taillights picked out in paint. He's got a little exhaust pipe, silver rims, flat underside. Again, that's still, it looks nice, at least somewhat. Rolls pretty well. It looks somewhat nice, again, if you don't have to deal with too many issues on this front. Again, I did mess this up a little bit, but you see, I was able to get it to sit a little better. Now there's a very minimal gapping, but yeah, it's just something about the windshield is in particular. I think something just went wrong a little bit. Salt tolerances are weird, so it's like doesn't want to sit properly. That's one thing. The other thing is the hood. I'll get that more information later, but when you first try to transform it, there's a good chance the hood will not sit flush particularly on one side. That's usually because there's a little slots and tabs up in there, and usually either the slot's too big or the tab's too big. And that's just how it is, unfortunately. And you basically have to shave some excess plastic out, and then it should sit flush once you're able to do that, and then it looks a bit better. But it's a shame, because again, this would have been a good, otherwise would have been a great figure, but this QC nightmare of what it is. But yeah, comparisons, I guess. Start things off, we'll bring in the rest of the Stunticons. You got Beatback and Collide. Was it Collide? Yeah, Collide, that's Contain. I think I might even call him Collide this entire time, but he's Contain. And then, of course, their leader, Overlord, or as we'd like to call him, Motor Master. Yep, all there. See that? They're all here. Yep, look good together. They look good as a group, except for those blotches, but hey. They look pretty good as a group. There's that. Again, comparing them to the Iron Factory New Age, I guess, car counterparts. You can see those. You can see, again, the Iron Factory ones are a bit larger. Just a bit. But they are somewhat comparable to the New Age stuff, although New Age in robot mode tends to be smaller. You can see that stuff. And because, again, this is one of the things, I can't believe I didn't think of this, core class. Here's Optimus, core class. You can see the Optimus is a bit small, but, you know, they are roughly comparable to the core class Legends class of official. So there's that. Well, one other thing I did forget. I'm going to bring these up real quick. The extra accessories. They come with the final, I guess, extra accessories. These little panels slash the shoulder pylons for the combined mode, which they don't really do anything very much with this mode. However, there's something I saw on TFW. I can't remember who posted it, but there's tabs and slots in this guy, and you can actually tab these things together, which, you know, kind of bring a little block. And then you can take the trailer, and this is kind of fudging things, but these tabs actually kind of line up pretty well with some space on the back here. And you can actually, if I line it up right, you can actually get that on there pretty good. And it's kind of like, you know, it's like some trucks have those like little lift or refrigeration units attached to them. It's like, it's kind of, you know, you're kind of fudging it, but it is somewhere to store it if you're trying to find all the places to store the extra bits, you know, some extra bits so you don't have anything hanging out. Although unfortunately the guns still just kind of hang out loose. But yeah, there is something you can do. Kind of neat that it's probably unintended, because it doesn't quite fit together, but hey, it's something. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get these guys transformed, and then we'll talk about the robot modes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start with Pillage here. And with this, you just kind of want to wiggle the legs apart a bit, just so you can get in there and get the engine block and move that up and just put it in there. It doesn't really tab in or anything. Well, it kind of sort of does, but not really. It just kind of sits in there, but it sits in there pretty secure. Then you could take the legs and go ahead and extend them down like that. You can then take the spoiler and rotate this both sides of it around like this. So this is more or less going to be kind of flat, although why not stay that way. Rotate this around, bring the wheels, they're on a double hinge, so just bring them down like this, bring them down like this, and then go ahead and take these and rotate these around 180. They become more or less heel supports, which is real nice. And then at the waist, you just go ahead and rotate 180, and there you go. Adjust the feet and whatnot as you need to. Stood up. And from here, what you go ahead is take this part and untab and bring it down. Untab this and bring it down. Then go ahead and untab the arms from the sides here and slide it out. There's a little slider right here. Just slide those out like that. You can go ahead and take this and that just pop out. I've never had that happen before. Yeah, okay, so extend that, rotate it around at the bicep right there, and then rotate the hand around 180 as well. So, same thing, extend this out, rotate that around, rotate the hand around 180. You can only go one direction because of this little thing on the back of the hand. So you can only go one direction, and because then also this part right here blocks the hand up. And finally, go ahead and take this, untab that, and bring it back and around, and it just kind of rests at his back like that. And there you go. That's Pillage in his robot mode. Take that aside. Now Contain. Now Contain, I said someone said you don't have to do this, but I'm not sure if they're right, how right they are. But yeah, you need to take the spoilers off, unfortunately. The spoilers need to come off. It's a bit of parts forming. They also come separately in the package anyway. And you kind of need to sort of split right here. And then you take this tail piece right here, kind of extend out a little bit. It only comes out a little bit, and then you take it down and just fold it down like that. Take the sides here, and you take the rear quarter panels, and you rotate them around. Rotate that around. You can go ahead and split the legs like this. And this is where things get tricky, because things are banging into each other. This was not well engineered. You need to extend the side of the car out. And you also need to futz with this so that this, you need to get the rear windshield. You need to get this piece extended down a bit. So this actually can then take this piece and fold out all the way. You bring this down, and then get this around the hand, and then rotate the foot out. Bring it around, and then there's a tab here which will go tab into the back here, and this kind of tabs at an angle as well. It's flat in the front, at least part of it is. You just then bring that back in, and this part, if it hasn't already, this needs to slide in. That becomes the kneecap, and that's one leg done. Same thing on this side. You extend it out, take the windshield piece, and you flip it down a bit, and then adjust the rest of the leg, bring it down, this out, try to bring the foot, rotate the foot as well, Get it around the hand. Bring this down. Rest of the way. This is where things get a little annoying. There we go. Then tab it back in. Once you have it lined up, tab this back in. And again, make sure the knee pad is in place. Bring that around. The legs are the single most annoying thing of this, because it feels like they didn't quite engineer it properly. So yeah, just once you get the legs all sorted and he's standing, then what you do is you take the hood here, untab that, and this is what I was talking about with the hoods and the hood and the arm pieces. Then you can take the arms out and extend them out, bring them down like this, and you see this is the tab. So right here, this tab right here, that tab is usually the culprit. On mine, it was definitely this. There's a ton of excess plastic on the tab, and I had to shave it down. But some people have reported it's actually the slot in there where the excess plastic is for there. So it seems to be one or both. Inspect them both before you actually go ahead and make any modifications, and then do it. Yeah, then you should bring them down on the arms down on this armature, and you then on this hinge you bring them back up. Same on this hinge, bring it back up, and then you bring the hood the rest of the way down. And now those tabs will go into these outer slots right here. And that will hold things into place once it's all in. Mine, because of how I transform it, normally the instructions tell you just leave the head like this for transformation, but I like to hide it a little bit by rotating around, putting it up, because that's why the paint won't scratch when it rubs against the hood. But yeah, that's how I like to have the head. Extend the biceps out, extend the arms out like that. And then again, because this is something that seems universal, I need to rotate the hands. Their hands are like this normally. And they tell you to do it like this in the instructions, but almost everyone needs to rotate them around 180 to get them to fit. Otherwise, the car mode will not come together. So just an FYI there. You have to be rotating so the palms are facing outwards. And then once you get them all, that all situated, you have Contain in his robot mode. Yeah, it's a good-looking robot. I really like this guy. Or at least I want to like this guy a lot more. But man, did he give me so many issues, because there's just... Again, another thing of QC for mine was the hands. The wrists were pretty much fused into place, and more or less because they were so tight in there, in this little mushroom, and the mushroom pig was so tight in there. I had to put a drop of silicone oil on each wrist, and even then, this wrist I had to take some pliers so I had enough torque to move it. It's loosened up a lot more now, but man, it was really bad. And some people have reported the same thing with the biceps, where it's also really stiff, so you might want to be careful of that. That's another thing. I also tried to shave away some plastic inside here, trying to get the pants to fit without having to rotate them. Unfortunately, that was not successful, and I'm realizing that there's no way to actually do it, so there is some excess plastic shaved right there. Oh yeah, one last thing where I forgot, because I was already... Okay, you can take the spoilers and tab them back where they were, and they will just kind of fit just fine back here. Or I've also found you can actually tab them to the sides here on the legs, the little tabs. Just do that like that. But you're supposed to really just leave them like this. Again, they don't tell you to remove them, but as far as I can tell, if you don't remove them, they just get in the way anyway, so it's just best to just go ahead and remove them. Theoretically, someone said you don't have to, but it's just not worth the effort to not remove them. Just remove them, get them out of your way. It makes things so much easier. Yeah, you can leave them back there if you want. Yeah, so I had to do quite a bit of plastic shaving and a bunch of modifications. Another thing, mine, the ankles are really loose. They're very loose, and it really kind of sucks, because this guy looks good, but man, is he a pain to work with, that's for sure. Yeah, that's the thing. Look great. He has almost no real problems, or at least nothing that wasn't really easy to fix within 20 seconds. This guy, I just constant fixing and adjusting and fixing and adjusting and fixing and adjusting, and I'm still not 100% satisfied with it, but at least it looks nice. At least in robot mode. I'm still annoyed by that windshield thing. Yeah, so there's that stuff. So yeah, this guy's just riddled with QC issues, and it still bothers me. They do have their weapons. He has the one with a scope towards the back, and mine's also, the scope's a little bent. And, they hold him just fine, like that. His has a smaller scope, and the gun's handles more forward. So again, just like with Beat Back and crap, what was his name? Collide. It doesn't. He can't really hold, you can't really bend his elbow with the gun in. And also on top of that, this one doesn't like to peg in super easily. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't like to peg in. This, I'm noticing because of his ankles, he doesn't like to stand. And also, if you look, his feet are really pretty far forward comparatively. His heels definition is kind of eh. He's super solid partially because of those. Yeah. Again, look great, but man, his QC was just a chore to deal with. I'm just so frustrated about that. And just, that's the thing about there. It's just, otherwise though, it looks really nice. Although mine has some weird excess plastic that needs to be, it's just kind of coming off in like little strands. That's weird. Yeah. Again, so like Pillage here. Again, really nice. Again, that weird, this sometimes, I'm noticing on camera it looks a little different, but yeah, this weird brownish, very muted brownish yellow around there. It's supposed to kind of emulate the pseudo gold without actually being gold. It looks okay. I think it feels, sometimes it looks worse in a lot of photos, but it looks fine here. Again, you can see that it's orange and purple and the red visor and everything on his head, and you got little ears. You got the 4 wheels on his shoulders. Pretty much just mostly yellow though, just yellow, yellow, yellow. Oh look, a little bit of red. And silver on his belly, I guess. But yeah, it's just, he's got a kind of just very yellow. For better or for worse, he's very yellow, which may or may not be good, in your opinion. And him, of course, again, you got some, I guess, grayish silver or silverish gray company here. You got this gray stuff. Someone was saying that they were getting some paint issues here when they were combining it. So just be watchful of that, because this is for combine. This slot right here is for combine mode. And they were saying that they were having issues where this was just getting scratched up. So be careful of that. Yeah, this looks nice. His head's got the nice purple shades with the yellow mouth plate, black helmet. But otherwise, yeah, it's like this kind of bone white, and you got the black and red. It looks nice, but man, yeah, again, it's just annoying to deal with a bit. Articulation, both of them have ball jointed heads. So ball jointed head left and right. You don't really have a lot of down. It might be a couple degrees, but you got a lot of up, at least on him. His also is a weird thing, which I noticed. It doesn't take much to get his head off the ball joint. Like, it barely fits on there, so it's kind of weird. And it's not like it comes off really easy, but it doesn't take much effort to get it off the ball joint. So that's something odd. Shoulders can go full 360. Now, there's that hinge, and that's pretty much it, of course, which means he kind of bangs his head, shoulder into his head. He's got a bicep swivel. Elbows go about 90 degrees, maybe just shy of. Wrists can swivel, but again, they're limited because of the platforms. They pretty much only swivel inward. He's got a waist swivel. No ab crunch, unfortunately, because of transformation stuff. He does have this weird sideways thing, but that's more from combined mode, if anything, or at least one of the combined modes. Hips, ball jointed, so forward and back that far and outward that far, and then you got the thigh swivel right here, unhindered. Got a knee bend, which is about 90 degrees there. And then ankles are kind of weird because, well, he does have the ankle tilt right here. And then he's got the wheel there, and then he's got this piece right here. You can move that as well if you need to. Move the heel piece here, right there, as you need to. And you don't want it totally aligned as necessarily, but yeah, it does help if you're trying to get certain poses and whatnot. That might help add some extra stability. So there's that. Now, much the same story kind of here. Ball jointed head, left and right, lots of up, not so much down. Shoulders can do a full 360 outward there, right there. Does not bang himself in the head. Biceps can swivel. Elbows, again, 90 degrees or so. Wrist swivels, if you can get them unstuck from out of the package. Waist swivel, again, that weird kind of sideways, not really an ab crunch thing, so no forward ab crunch. Hips, though, forward, back, outward, thigh swivel, knees, just under 90 degrees, actually, thanks to this little hinge piece right here for the back of the leg. And ankles, you can see, tilt that far. There's a little bit of forward and back, a little bit, not a whole lot. Actually, I think this guy kind of technically has it too, although it's kind of weird because, yeah, it's got forward and back, and it's just kind of weird though because of the way the foot is shaped and everything. So there is that, if you're need to know. Yeah, first actually we're going to go ahead and do the New Age and Iron Factory comparisons. Clearly taller than New Age, about the same height as Iron Factory. Here's a Kingdom Core class Optimus. Again, about the same height there, although technically I guess Optimus should be taller, but There you go, that's that. And of course, rest of the team. Because yeah, now all the Magic Square Stunticons are out. Now that all of them are out. There you go. There's the team. Looks great together. And whatnot, and there you go. Now, these two. That's my thing. They look good. They look good in both modes for the most part. It's just Contain has so many QC issues. It just puts it's a rotten cherry on top of the sundae. It's an otherwise great sundae, but the cherry's rotten. It just was not great to open this up and just find this guy had so many problems. Like, I kept fixing problem after problem. It's just, man. If it wasn't for the fact I was already invested in the whole group, if this was my first exposure, I would have been, I'm just selling these guys and bailing because this is not worth it. They're lucky that this is the last one. It's still annoying that Magic Square, I don't know what the heck, they just dropped the ball in the QC for the last group here, and that's really frustrating. At this point, if you're already in, you're probably just going to deal with the issues yourself. But man, if you're seeing this and you're considering getting the whole set, this might make you avoid it. I had to spend so much time just fixing Contain. It's just really frustrating. This is definitely the weakest of the set. But it's hard to say, no, you don't buy it because, well, you need them to complete Menace, or at least somewhat. Some people are already printing out, like, making 3D printed things so you can just stick little cars on the arms of the Menasor, so you might be able to skip these guys entirely. Especially if you only want Menasor and you don't care about the individual Stunticons. Yeah, so $65, it's really hard to say, yeah, go ahead and get it. Because, like, yeah, it's only really, if you're willing to fix Contain, essentially, and maybe a little bit of Pillage. I didn't hit the issue with the wheel and Pillage, but a lot of people did. Yeah, if you're willing and able to fix Contain, yeah, sure, because you're at this point, yeah, you're already going to get the full team just so you can get Menasor, but yeah, it's like, yeah, it's not worth. I would actually say it's really not worth the $65 that domestic retailers are charging for it, and I'm kind of annoyed that I paid that much to had to fix so much on him. Again, especially since he looks good. He looks so good, but just so many issues popped up that it just drove me up the wall. So it's hard to say whether or not it's worth the money. Well, I would say no, it's technically not worth the money, but at this point, I'm just kind of in. At least individually, it's not worth the money. If you're just, for whatever reason, buying just one set of Stunticons, okay, but this is not the set to get. If you're going to get one Stunticon, I would actually say the Overlord, their Motor Master would be the one to get. He's like the best one. The only problem is he's also the most expensive one because of the trailer. And if you're only getting him, then the trailer is kind of pointless, isn't it? Well, unless you get 3D printed parts and just, make your own Menasor that doesn't need any of the Stunticons, in which case, good on you. But yeah, these are not the ones that are fun to play with just because it Contain's not fun to play with because his transformation is also really fiddly, particularly the legs, because it's just you're pushing pieces past other pieces and it's not smooth. Pillage is smooth. The breakdown is smooth. Yeah, the beatback is smooth. Collide is smooth. Motor Master is smooth. All those are smooth transformations, but Contain just got the short end of the stick. It's not a fun transformation, really, because of the legs. The legs are just weird and awkward and annoying. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Kind of a bit of a downer to end things on. Which, thinking though, that's not really the end, because we still got to talk about, their Menasor, who is noticeably not named. Weirdly enough. So, yeah, stay tuned for that, I guess. We'll talk about the entire set as a whole and some of the small issues that have popped up since completing it. But, that's it for these guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it informative and entertaining. I hope you like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Twitter. I'm at Nemesis Prime On, and check out the Patreon and Coffee. And I see you next time with the final Bag Square Stunticon review.